Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and it's Talking Comics. We're going to talk some comics. These are for the first 2 weeks of January. So, January 1st and January 8th, I believe. Late getting to these by and large because shipping has been hell through the holiday season and whatnot. But we're back on track. So, anyway, we're going to talk first the books of January 1st. In no particular order. Happy to talk about this one first, just to get it out of the way. JSA issue number 3, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Ali Archaic. I don't have a lot to say about it. I'm not enjoying it. My latest pull list, I didn't put it on it. It's got like all of my favorite characters in it, and I just am not enjoying any aspect of it. Lots of times with comic books, one part might not be exactly right. I can still enjoy it for the other things, and that's not the case. So we're just going to move right on. We're going to move on to Two-Face, Trial Separation. Issue number 2. This is written by Christian Ward, Varas, Placina on art. I'm really enjoying this book a lot. I like the art in it. It's a really interesting story. It's basically Harvey Dent has control of his facilities. He's got Two-Face kind of locked away in a mine prison, kind of thing. So some of the story is Two-Face in the mine prison trying to chisel his way out. Harvey is trying to create law and order amongst the Gotham underground. They have what's called like the White Church, I believe is what they're calling it. It is a roaming court, roaming the same way like a pop-up underground dance rave thing is. And they try to maintain a certain level of civility and order amongst all the gangs and the criminal elements of Gotham by having trials and meting out justice, as it were. And he believes that he is tamping down the dangers of Gotham. Maybe if he does enough of this, he can prove that he's in control of his facilities and that he can somehow be welcomed back into the fold of a normal Gotham society. He has working for him, picked up in issue 1, a deaf girl who is kind of his private eye, his detective, to help him gather the information he's to figure out the case. Current case has got the King of Hearts and the Queen of Hearts going at each other. They are married. The Queen of Hearts has some pictures showing his infidelity. Infidelity in their prenuptial says that the King of Hearts should be killed. She wants that to happen. They're trying to solve this thing. And it ends up, maybe that it's not really what's happened. But there's a larger conspiracy going on in it that Harvey is figuring out or is noticing, seeing the signs that's happening in it. Anyway, I'm a really big Two-Face fan. I like Two-Face a lot. As a character, he's a great villain and a great, whatever else, anti-villain, potentially in this case, as he struggles to try and control the situation. And this issue ends with kind of a there is the shadow hand, as he refers to it. That I was looking to see what that was called. The shadow hand. This is manipulating stuff, outside of stuff and causing them grief. I really like it. Like I said, I'm a Two-Face fan. That's some of it. But I don't think it's pretty funnily written. It's interesting. The whole idea of there being an undercourt. I guess maybe if I was looking at the kind of how does this work in the larger Batman world, and I guess it does. Maybe Batman would let such a thing exist, solely because it cools the temperature of all the crazies and gangs in Gotham. But I do really enjoy it. I really enjoy it quite a bit. 2 issues in. Issue 17 of Birds of Prey. ends this little story arc of Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, diving into this place and getting juiced with some Amazon serum of some sort that makes her into kind of a monstrous thing. Some fun battle in it and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, not groundbreaking entertainment, but still really fun. Really enjoy it. As always, curious to see what is next. Thompson writes a good story. Basrari on pencils, inked by a number of people, I believe. Didn't really notice that, though, which is good. But Birds of Prey continues to be a lot of fun. Batgirl, more Batgirl stuff. Batgirl issue number 3. I really enjoyed this quite a bit. They're on a train. They're leaving Gotham. We get to find out a bunch of stuff about Lady Shiva that we wouldn't have known. Maybe she's not just the monster that we all think she is. And of course, Cassandra has to kind of potentially come to terms with that. I think she starts to. By the end of the issue, we find out that Shiva's hitched her wagon to some other interesting people, which basically brings Cassandra right back to her original belief. Was that I really like the way that Bramal is writing the character. There's lots of Cassandra doesn't talk a lot, so there's a lot of that in it. It's mostly her assessing the stuff around her and making when she makes those assessments, figuring out what it is that people, what their motivations are, what they're up to, based on largely on actions, movements, tones, facial expressions, that sort of stuff. And I think it's done really well. The art by Mizrawa. I enjoy quite a bit too. There was only one moment here I was a little confused with. Cassandra, I guess, kicks Shiva into the next train car, except I don't know that it really translates that way. I had to look at it multiple times just to kind of to understand what was going on, because we went from nobody to suddenly there's a lot of people. This page here where she whoops this kick up, and this panel, I didn't understand that this panel was her flying, because then suddenly focus. Then suddenly there's a bunch of people around, and I'm like, I don't understand that, but I guess that's what it is. Otherwise, I enjoyed the art quite a bit. There's this cool, Cassandra sees that there's the League of Shadows. There's some of the League of Shadows there, and we get multiple pages of this running fight through train cars, which I thought was some pretty cool stuff. As we, as the character decide what is going on and stuff, and so that was all pretty cool. Definitely enjoying Batgirl. This new run of Batgirl has been fun so far. Poison Ivy, issue number 29. Pamela makes it to Seattle, kind of under the same way that Swamp Thing moves around, except she didn't have to regrow herself someplace. She just kind of wandered through the mist, and it helped her travel to where she needs to. So she's flirting more and more on this edge of having some of the powers of the green and not just her own scientifically induced powers and whatnot. It's interesting. This is a really cool issue having to do a lot with, there's a whole group of people who thinks that she's some sort of prophet, knight that's going to wipe out the corporate world and bring us back to the green for all the climate change, call the climate issues that we legitimately have going on in the world. So there's this hope that she's going to be that. She doesn't want to be that, or she was going to be that. She wants to be on her own terms. A good chunk of the story is really good in that it deals with her being in control of herself and people making choices for her all the time. And she's really, really getting sick of people making choices for her. And she finds another person in this issue that's making choices for her, and it's all really frustrating. One of the things I will say about this G. Lewis written, great. The art by Takara is really good too. But the letterer, and I'm going to butcher his name, extremely smart guy. Panel to Panel, I think, is what his comic book magazine was called. He quit doing it. It's one Eisner's and that sort of stuff. He has a bunch of videos also about how comic books are made, why the page is laid out the way it is. Super, super smart comic book person, extremely articulate about talking about that stuff. I've left Twitter quite a while ago. I don't know. He doesn't seem to have social media other places, and I don't know that he's even there anymore. But I miss his articulate ability to talk about comic books. Anyway, he's a letterer, and he's a letterer for this. Letters for a few DC comics, but definitely he letters for this. And his name is Hussein Osmet Alu, I want to say. Anyway, killing his name. Smart dude. I really liked his lettering. He does the word balloons, and here's Pamela having a conversation with a guy, and she's slowly working her pheromone kind of charm on this guy, and I don't know if my camera is going to focus. See the word balloon. See the little tendrils that are starting to work into the balloon, and here. Ooh, focus. The weird balloon is starting. Pam's are green. His is starting to turn green. And you're getting more of those little tendrils working their way in. But it continues as he's talking and kind of what Pam wants to go on. It leaks over into him. And as he walks away, it kind of peels off. Just really, really, I really enjoyed it a lot. That's just kind of a really subtle, really cool sort of thing. And Pam is just awesome. Poison Ivy. I like this new Poison Ivy costume quite a bit. I love the collar that kind of creeps up around her face, and how it's like tendrils and vines and little flowers and that sort of thing. But yeah, she's just really, really cool. Really enjoyed this issue. Enjoyed this issue quite a bit. Just the whole, her own personal perspective on controlling herself versus other people continuing to control her, and Woodrow continues to haunt her, in one way or another, even to this day. Next up, we have the comic I really loved. First off, I love the title. I love these ridiculously long titles. When I lay my vengeance upon thee. So it is, I don't know what era it's set in. I want to feel like it's set in like the 70s, just because that's 70s, early 80s, just because that's when the Exorcist came out. This has to do with exorcism. You have these two characters. This man here is who it starts out with. It's implied that he drowns a baby during a baptism in Mexico. He's going to go to prison or whatever. The church kind of saves him and says, look, you can't do this anymore. But we're going to send you off to do something else to, redeem yourself and do God's work or whatever. Then we have this older gentleman here, this red fellow, and they starts out with him in Paris, and he is going to be showing up to do an exorcist. He gets there, and the priest that's there is like, oh, girl's fine. She's fine, whatever. And then he gets in a fight with that priest. You find that priest has been possessed. And, there's some hocus pocus goes on to deal with that. And then he gets busted up. A head priest comes to him and basically says, Archbishop basically says, hey, look, you clearly need a partner, attempt to get a partner again. I got somebody for you. Go home, check it out, start training him. His partner is this guy. Extremely damaged goods. Shows up at this island that they live on. He's drunk on wine. And some interesting stuff. But the kind of art you see here is the art that's inside. It was really visually interesting. I'm always excited when I can come across somebody new that is that their visuals are different. The art is different. It's ink and paint and just, I don't know. It's the visuals for the type of story it is, just is really, really, really good. Here's our priest at the beginning in the prison, beat up with a swollen eye because we get this kind of him rethinking about what happened here. Yeah, and there's our our bishop that tells him he's got other work he can do. But I just really um, like this. There was some really eerie stuff that happened at the end with appearing and disappearing nooses and stuff like that, and just left us with a and the very end of it, um, our priest that doesn't really want to be there, he in his room in the corner on the peeling wallpaper in the very corner, he gets him a chair to look, and there's this stuff that says, "Old bull lies. He will make you betray yourself." Peeled in wallpaper. And it's just really interesting. And then, of course, the next cover looks totally bonkers too. Just really enjoyed this quite a bit. Gus Moreno did the writing, and Jacob Rebecca did the art on it. Yeah, just really, really dug it. It really had a good vibe to it for this type of story it was. I really felt like the art worked really well, to deliver that story. So really, really cool with that. And the last book of that week, Saga, issue 71. Trying to remember now after having read this a while ago. Is this the last of the arc? And we're going to take a break? Can't remember. Anyway, lovely Saga issue as always. Beautiful Fiona Staples art. Fiona does faces so incredibly well. Just really am impressed. And this issue, it really stood out to me how impressed the facial expressions and stuff are, for what's going on in here. We have a number of things going on where we have the main, we have the main circus and what's going on with it. And then we have the side story of the Will and Marco's ex, who are on some form of heroin that lets them see a reality that they want to, and they're basically wasting away, complete drug wrecks, and she gets rescued, and the Will is left in a house that's on fire, well, doped out of his mind. So really interesting stuff. One of the things I wanted to talk about as far as faces go and whatnot, I'm trying to find an Alana face that doesn't really spoil anything, but here, this face, there's Alana. She's clearly an older person, and I'm just really impressed with the ability to convey that being older, quite a bit. I just really am impressed with that. Here, move my old man beard all the way. Now, there she is. There's a young version of her versus what's in here. And you can literally tell that she's aged, and she should be aged. Anyway, the great book. There's so much going on and whatnot. The last page, of course, leaves us on a hanger of sorts. Oh, no, there's one more issue. There's one more issue of this season of Saga. How we end with this is really interesting because, I was thinking about it. The character that is mentioned at the very last page of this, I don't think we've ever heard Alana talk about that at all. Clearly we have Marco's extended family has been around, and we've seen them and whatever, but not like, oh, Alana has relatives, and the fact that she's run this long and they haven't been part of it, I find really interesting. There's just a lot going on. I'm curious about the stuff with the Will and whatnot. The book is really good. It's really enjoyable. I still, for me personally, it kind of lost its soul with the loss of Marco. But still, just a really brilliant book. I love the let's share our secrets between our Spider Girl here, and Hazel was really was funny and good. I enjoyed that. It's always an excellent book. I mean, even when I grumble about it, it's still, a top quality book. Once again, I feel like it lost the magic that it had with the first 50 issues when it took that massive break and whatnot. It came back. It's still a really good book. It just doesn't. It hasn't hold all of comics together like it seemed like it did there for a while. And that is it for the first week of January. Now we're going to jump into the second week of January. We're starting with right off the bat with an excellent book, Batman Dark Patterns. Hayden Sherman's art continues to be brilliant. His page layouts, panels, the style, everything about it is just really, really cool. Dan Waters is writing a great story here. Just really interesting. There's some moments in here you kind of like, oh, this is a younger Batman. I mean, he grumbles about this this coroner, quite a bit. That you can't trust the coroner. Don't do stuff with the coroner. Keep away from the coroner. And then literally he takes the culprit, the bad guy, takes him to the coroner for help. And leaves him with the coroner. Of course, as you can imagine, things ensue from there. But just like I said, just a brilliant book. This new character, the Pain Man, that has been shown to us is just really, really cool. And the fact that towards the end of it, we go to kind of like maybe an origin place for him. Or something like that, and he almost is like he's a cryptid or something. I just really intrigued about a lot of this. Really intrigued by this eating of the donuts by this reporter, this ex-reporter. Just the way he's eating them, that was really intriguing. I just really intrigued by this story quite a bit, and there's a great scene in this with Batman like walking down a neighborhood, like a regular old neighborhood, just taking a stroll. There he is, taking a stroll down this suburb outside of Gotham. Just really enjoying the hell out of this book. Issue 2, pretty much looking forward to issue 3. Hayden Sherman is firing on all cylinders. Just amazed that he can be doing this, and he can be doing Absolute Wonder Woman, and I think he's actually also got some stuff from Dark Horse coming out too that I missed ordering, but we'll pick up at a later date. Just amazing that he can crank out as much quality stuff as he does. And then next up we have Lucky Devils issue number 1, as it says up there, brought to you by the creators of 8 Billion Genies, which by and large I liked. 8 Billion Genies, there were aspects of it there, okay, whatever. Maybe Charles Soule and Ryan Brown are on this book, and the first issue is basically all set up, gives us these two human characters, and we find out that they're tied kind of to these two demons, and the demons both explain how hell works and their place in hell. They're here to make people miserable, and all of that sort of stuff, and work their way up the demon chain if they can make it there, and whatnot. And they kind of explain how your day is gone and why it's gone that way. But they want to strike a deal. Instead of this, there's two things. How terrible can you be, and how much power can you acquire? Well, forget the terrible part. Let's just go with power. And their whole purpose is they're going to overthrow hell. They're going to overthrow the kind of the chains of capitalist hell. I mean, that's how I see it anyway, is that it's like capitalism, and they're going to basically blow the whole system up. Is their intent. Really interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing where and how this plays out, just because of that. I'm really curious to see what comes of it. It was an enjoyable first issue with this really interesting idea going forward, kind of a thing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works, because the humans that they have are really nice humans. Like, look, we try to make it, and you keep making good choices. You're good people, and we're probably not going to be successful really breaking you. We're just going to make your life miserable, and nothing's going to come of it. So let's make you powerful instead, and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. It was a good premise. Glad I picked it up. I wasn't sure, but I'm glad I picked it up. Next up, we have Hello Darkness. I think this is issue number 6. Of course, it isn't on there. When I showed this video of getting these, and I commented on the fact that I wasn't sure who, I messed up. I ordered the B cover instead of the A cover. I like the A cover, trade dressing and art. As I said there, I'll say again here. Typically, if I'm buying books, I don't buy the variant covers. Or if I decide it's a limited series and I'm going to buy the variant covers, then I buy the variant covers, hopefully by the same artist all the way through. I like to be able to, when I pull out stuff out of my collection, I like to be able to look at a run of books and it looks like it's all together. It's all part of the same thing. And the trade dress and all that kind of stuff is part of that. Plus the fact it's great for the artists. They get all this work and money doing covers and stuff like that. But I don't like the variant cover game when it comes to the direct market. But that's a whole video unto itself, probably. Anyway, enjoyed this issue quite a bit. The backstory that's been throughout the entire thing by Ennis and Becky Cloonan continues to now be way more interesting and evil and diabolical on a completely different kind of a level on human condition and whatnot. But no, I mean, as a whole, this has always just been kind of a fun book in dark, creepy story kind of ways. Not always mind-blowing stuff in it, but there's always enough stuff in it to keep it interesting or enjoyable, and that sort of thing. So I continue to be happy to pick that up. I think it's a 12 issue, so I'm halfway through on that. Napalm Lullaby, issue number 8, Rick Remender and Bengal comic book. This issue starts to make more sense of the last couple issues. The last couple issues were really, for me, were kind of confusing. I now understand that we're in basically a dream reality driven by the sister. So we'll see how, and he's been collected, our guy here has been collected by the rest of the family, the janitor and all the people who seemed really evil in the first 6 books, to help them overthrow the sister who has all of reality in her own kind of private dreamscape and whatnot. And they managed to sneak in and get to her, but she's been expecting them, and so we'll see what happens. It's really turned this book on its head. There are things that were talked about in it, about the weird comic book cult stuff and some of the other stuff that explained or justified some of the way some of this is, but that's all gone now, and I don't know if that's ever going to come back or ever be a relevant part of the story, because now we're in this whole different, completely new, potentially new enemy, person that we kind of rode with as being one of the good guys, seemingly now may be one of the bad guys because they're forced in their own reality on everything else. The book has just taken some turns I wasn't expecting. I like it. I don't like it as much as a lot of the other Rick Remender books that I am reading currently, or have read. I'm interested. I want to know what's going on. I'm curious to see where it goes. But it lots of times leaves me with a lot of questions as to why did we spend time talking about or justifying something that now seems loosely irrelevant. But maybe it's not. I trust the creators to go through the process and hopefully deliver on all that stuff. And then I guess when the whole thing's done, I go back and look at it and decide whether or not it was successful in those things and stuff. But that's one of the joys of interesting stuff, that you don't know what's going on and something new or whatever. And I don't want everything, spoon fed to me. I enjoy those parts of it. So lots of times when I talk about the things that are missing or whatever, it's not a criticism if I don't like this. It's just me talking out loud as to why, and and hoping the universe has some insight that I don't, to go, oh, I think this. Anyway, or maybe you'll say that, I think this. Enjoyable comic. Next up, we have Where Monsters Lie. This is the Cull-De-Sac, issue number 3. Our FBI agent continues to largely be in control of what's going on around him and kicking everybody's ass, and the serial killers are all kind of scrambling to try and pick up the pieces from that. Our two different groups have kind of merged together now. We had the kid that survived all the crazy killing from the last series, and of course he's traveling with a serial killer and basically a hellhound, this Rottweiler that's the size of a minivan. Has been eating up people who've gotten in their way, but they've all kind of merged to the same place, and so now we're going to see what happens with this merge. Plus, the serial killers have figured out that things are not going in the way that they should be going, and we'll see how that plays. It's fun. It's got some snarky, funny things in it, whatnot, and as always, I like Petro Kowalski's art quite a bit, so I read it for that, if nothing else. But when Kyle Starks has got a good idea going, he does a pretty good job with it, and right now he does. So then we have Lawful, issue number 6. 1 or 2 more issues left. Really enjoying this book. A much more thoughtful book than what I originally thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more on the younger side of a YA audience is who it was going to be delivered to, and maybe it is, and maybe my expectations of what that kind of a book would be were lower than what this should have been. But just really enjoy this book, and kind of a commentary on the whole, do bad things, look bad, wear your sins on your on your sleeve, and the punishment of that, and then how society and the people in power abuse that and whatnot is really interesting. So really enjoying this book quite a bit. We're kind of at a point now where our main characters have kind of gone, this is all messed up, and we're going to fix it, kind of a deal. So curious to see how these next few issues, because it may tip all of their society on its side with some choices that they're attempting to make. So really interesting to see where that's going to go. Enjoy it quite a bit. Greg Peck written, and Diego Galindo art. Going to get better at reading people's names. I'm just terrible at pronouncing them, so I tend to lots of times be afraid to even say who it is that does the book. Next up, we have Archaic. This is issue number 2 from Ahoy Comics. Melissa F. Olson and Sally Catrino. Sally does the art. Melissa is the writer. I really am curious to see where the story goes. I'm enjoying it so far. It's just kind of trucking along. Now the family is on this island that's all geared to the blood of part of the family. The adopted stepchild has to wear an amulet to see all this craziness and not get sick and everything. But there's all these cryptids there. They're now protected there. Supposedly they can't be hurt on the island whatsoever. I mean, they shoot guns at each other and it does nothing. Really intriguing stuff as far as that goes. I'm just kind of curious to see where it goes. I mean, there's nothing that's like breaking my mind about the story, but it's just a lot of fun. These two kids are cute and are just rolling with having fun in their new world. Mom's kind of losing her mind because there's people that are still hunting her, and she's not sure what this all means. So just really looking forward to seeing where the book goes, what's going on with it. What's the furthest place from here? Another long titled book I love. With our General Record Store, which is exactly pretty much like the old record store that our characters came from at the beginning of the series, which is awesome. It's a chain store. They meet a new group of people, and that new group of people really doesn't want anything to do with them. Begrudgingly, they have a child, so they they take them in. There's some interesting conversations around some of that stuff, and some hope and more betrayal, and just all the kind of great stuff that goes on. And what's the furthest place from here? Just always really enjoy this book. Always intrigued to see where it goes. As our main family continues to try and find a safer place to live, and this is clearly not going to be it. But they can't go back where they came from. So what is next? What is next? The beautiful thing about this issue is, of course, they've been in a record store. And from the very beginning of this comic, all the people who lived in the record store had gods. They called them gods. They all walked around with a vinyl album of some sort. For whatever reason, they picked whatever they picked, and that was their gods. That all got left behind. Well, a few issues ago, Sid is shown records and record players and music and all that. So in this, they find some records, like, oh my gosh, they're gods. And she's like, no, look, see? And she puts one on a record player and plays, and there's music. And I just personally, because of my own personal love of music, my connection to music, my connection to comics, it was so cool on so many levels for me, and especially to go along with the emotion of everything else. So there it is, dropping that needle down. Here it is, dropping that needle, and then we get this page that is all just them, and just colors, and yeah, and I just love it, and it's just like Sid. It's so much. He's like, yeah, I know. And it's Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak is what they drop on, which I just can't imagine that being the first music you ever hear is Thin Lizzy. But just really, really cool moment. Like I said, maybe it doesn't mean as much to everybody else, but to me, it's just like, yes. So thank you, Boss and Rosenberg, for that, personally putting that piece of music art in there for me. I know you didn't do that, but it's how it feels. Anyway, next up we have Kaya, issue number, what are we at? 24, 2 years worth of book, and it's not slowing down. Every issue is just action-packed, gorgeous, Wes Craig artwork, or doing the colors on it, just really, really good stuff. We get our robot general comes back in this and basically helps out the Golden Child in this issue. Some interesting things are still dropping. They see bits and pieces of strange futures and pasts and the Ghost City. And I would stay the hell away from the Ghost City. That's nothing but bad news. Still just really interesting. Where is it all going to go? These got all these incredible stories and stuff in this, and just really, really great stuff. Highly recommended. If you aren't picking it up in singles, you pick up the trades. You just can't go wrong. I don't see how, unless you just absolutely hate action and adventure, then it's not your thing. But if you remotely like any of that stuff, that has to be a book to pick up if you're picking up comics. Next up, we have The Creeping Below. Brian Alvarez written, Del Rey drawn, Jenkins doing the colors. The covers on these things, well, I guess they're just like what's inside. It's this really heavily dark, rich, organic sort of a look to it. So in this issue, years have passed. Our sacrificed girl has basically arisen. She gets rescued. There are people who know she is just because there were lots of "Have you seen this girl?" posters out and about. She reconnects with some of the people that she met when she was first in Norway and whatnot. But she's not all whole. She seems to be part of this organic stuff going on. Trees. She's either a dryad or something like that. At one point, she blows her nose and blows ants out of her nose. She's clearly not whole, but she's also here for revenge. So this is kind of a monster thing where our victim is one of the monsters herself. It's all right. It's interesting. Like I said, the art is so dark. I like it. It's moody. It fits for what's going on in the what's going on in the book. But it's also challenging because it's so muddied for a lot of it. So I'm not saying that it shouldn't be that. It does make it harder for my old man eyes, I guess. I'll keep getting this. I don't know how many issues there are going to be from Boom Studios. It's got some some metal in it, some heavy metal stuff. It's kind of got the trappings of that and the trappings of the old Norrish gods and that sort of thing. So it's got some interesting stuff to it. So I'll roll along for that. And then finally we have the Blood Brothers Mother. This is issue 3. My solicitation said that this is the last issue. This ends literally saying that there's more issues coming. I don't know how soon they're coming because I have not seen any more issues, I don't believe, to order. But this does not end a story. It just kind of leads us to a certain point in an adventure. Like this is going to be longly serialized as opposed to like what a lot of the distillery books are, where they're not. They definitely seem to be finite. It's not like they're an ongoing kind of thing. They all feel like they clearly have this is how many issues we're going to be. I'm enjoying the book more and more. I really like Westerns. I like the struggle of all of that. I continue to be captivated by the, I'm your Huckleberry kind of stuff. Not that there's a lot of that in this, but just, I don't know if it's because I live in the West. I don't know. I just it captivated by a lot of it. I really like this issue because it does not pull punches on the way that things were then and the reality of how Native Americans were treated and and all that stuff. So it's all really intriguing kind of thing here. There's some really interesting characters with interesting stuff going on. I don't really go too far into depth of it. Because you can't really, it's hard to talk about without spoilers. I'm getting more and more used to Eduardo Rizzo's art in this because it's all watercolors instead of his normal, heavy inked and then color put in kind of thing, which is what I really like his style of art for that. Let's see if I can get it out of this bag. Because for whatever reason, Discount Comic Book Service sent me 2. And I've just kind of left them in there. But so Brian's art, it's a lot lighter. I mean, it's the same sort of stuff. It has this kind of a little pinch of Corbin in his style of doing stuff. And throughout this whole thing, these are the colors, these pinks and aqua blues, and largely and whatnot. And so, but still, it's don't get me wrong, it is excellent art. There's burning all the massacred Indians. But it's excellent art. I'm so used to that heavy black line and that sort of stuff. We get into kind of a shootout, siege type situation going on. These kids, because it's largely told through the kids' eyes, is their mom is shifty. She's I'm sure she's figured out how to survive in the world that she has to live in by making interesting calls and decisions and then convincing the people around her that those are the right calls and decisions to make. So interesting from that aspect. The end of this ends with our kids splitting up, starting to grow up and making their own decisions, the oldest anyway. So yeah, like I said, really enjoying this. I mean, it says right there, chapter 4 coming soon. And this was listed as 3 issues. Not upset with that at all. I'll definitely be picking up whenever it comes back. I just got to remember to keep my eyes peeled for when it does come back. All right, that's it. I've talked for 40 plus minutes. Thanks a lot if you watched. I mean, what do you think? Am I way off on some of this stuff? You got insight that I don't have? Let me know. And we'll catch you next week.